I welcome you to EPG Pathshala project. This module is a part of EPG Pathshala in the subject of political science. I am Ashutosh Kumar. I am a professor in Punjab University. I happen to be national coordinator of EPG Pathshala in the subject of political science. State politics and its developmental trajectory since independence. So it talks about how the state politics as a subject has developed since independence. So the first thing the paper talks about that contemporary India has undergone a process of many changes in the field of politics and economy. Significant transitions and different phases of the politics and economy of India. On the one hand, there has been a major transition from development planning model to the market economy model, and within the development planning model also there was one kind of economy in Nehruvian India and another kind of economy under the watch of Indira Gandhi. When she went out for nationalization and she went all out for, in the name of poverty alleviation, the nationalization of the mines, nationalization of the banks in the economic sector, which was not the case with Nehru administration. The private sectors were allowed to continue and the public sectors were promoted, but then there was not much interference with the private sector by the state. So even in the economic sense, you can see that it's not only the two model, development planning model and the market economy model. Rather, within the development planning model also, you have one kind of economic strategy being adopted by Nehru administration, another kind of strategy, much more strident, much more interventionist strategy adopted by Indira Gandhi regime. Then even in the political sense, you can see that there was a great degree of consensus in Nehruvian India meant about the development policy, about the secularism, about socialism. So there was a great degree of consensus about many principles of democracy, which has not been the case now. So even in the political sense, you have the federalism has been under the strain, secularism has been put under the question mark, even the developmental strategy has been debated, and socialism, welfareism, they all have been debated in the recent India. So there have been different phases, transformations have taken place in India's political economy, politics and economy, and that has impacted on the states also. One major development which this Rohit Sharma talks in this module is there has been a major trend and take into account the state as the unit of analysis. Because in a much more homogenized India, in an India which was based on consensus, in India where just after the independence, when there was a thought about nation building, state building, it was always an emphasis on all India politics, national level politics, rather than the state level politics. There was always this insistence on nation building and a state building, institution building. India was seen as a nation state, as a kind of one unit, and it was sufficient to study India as the unit of analysis and the need was never felt to go beyond the nation state and look for the smaller units. We can also refer to the time kind of the politics which was dominated by the Congress party. So the system was known as a Congress system. The Congress party was winning elections in almost all the states, with the exception of 3 states like Pepsu, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. Congress party was successful in winning elections at the assembly level, and of course at the national level Congress was also winning. So that almost 2/3 of the seats in the elections were won by the Congress party. So Congress party was the dominant party, not only in terms of its electoral performance, in terms of the seats it won under the first past the post system, but it was also a kind of hegemonic party because Congress represented the dominant consensus about politics and economy in the country. So that's why you can say that there was hardly any need to study or to pay attention to the state. It was always seen as a kind of sufficient if India was considered as the unit of analysis. The situation changes as the module argues. If you read the module, it says that 1967 was the watershed election when the Congress lost power in as many as in 8 states. In fact, there was a state like Tamil Nadu. At that time, it was known as a Madras state, where the DMK came to power. In fact, if you see the political history of Tamil Nadu, Congress has never been able to come back to power. It has been always, power has shifted from one Dravida party, DMK, to another Dravida party, AIDMK. And the same is the story of Bengal also. For quite some time, 1977, it has been the non-Congress party government in West Bengal. So the Congress party suffered a decline both in terms of its social coalitional support base and also with regard to its ideological support base. Or Congress was no longer the party, the Rainbow Coalition party, or it was no longer the party which would have the support base of the upper caste as well as the lower caste, or support base of the minorities. So there was a gradual decline of the party. It was not like the party system was the Congress system. The state parties started coming up with the rise of the smaller identity groups, peasant communities coming up, and most of these peasant communities were numerically very strong. And in an electoral democracy, gradually they realized with the rise of modernity, with the spread of education, employment opportunities, greater communication, they became aware about their numerical strength and they became aware about the potential to seize power from the upper caste. And Congress party always suffered from this intra-party mechanization to promote the leadership from the so-called lower caste and the communities. There was a kind of elite circulation, this thing, and the internal democracy within the party also started suffering with the departure of Nehru from the scene. The state parties and the parties which would be basically, which might have claimed the status of a national party, but they were basically confined to a particular state. And you also had some state leaders also emerging in a big way. So as a result, 1967 elections saw the writing of the first book by Minor Wiener, and state politics in India, the Minor Wiener work was followed by Iqbal Narayan. So there was like now the new breed of literature, new genre of literature in the arena of Indian politics, whereby states were now recognized as the units of political analysis, though economic analysis was still at the all India level, because all over India there was a kind of centralized economic model under the development planning model, and India, unlike China and all, had one economic model. In the aftermath of Mandal and in the aftermath of Mandal and Mandir, the Rath Yatra, the Ram Temple movement, and also Mandal Commission recommendations being implemented by VP Singh government, giving 27% seats in the central government jobs to the 27% for central government jobs to the other backward classes. It also created trouble and also gave rise to state level agitation. You had agitation in Gujarat, you had agitation in Bihar, non-Nirman movement in Gujarat, and like the movement in Bihar also led by Jayaprakash Narayan. So there were regional level agitations and regional level issues that came up. And also because of the policy of the Congress government, especially under Indira Gandhi, to interfere in the affairs of the state, not allowing the state parties to get strengthened or to seize power at the state, and also not allowing the state level leaders of the Congress party to come up in an autonomous manner. And many powerful Congress leaders like Kamlapati Tripathi, and then Hemwati Nandan Bahuguna, and also like Abdul Rahman Antule and all, they were simply dismissed whenever Indira Gandhi thought that they were becoming too powerful or they were becoming influential. So there was always a shuffling of the leadership and shuffling of the government and undue interference of the center in the form of Article 356 and President's rule and all. So as such, the two factors, like the one that the regionalization of the Indian polity and the emergence of the state level powerful peasant communities over the years taking the electoral routes to seize power, to resent the dominance of the Congress and seeing Congress party as a upper caste party or a party dominated by the Brahmins. Like in UP, you can refer to revolt of Charan Singh, who formed the government after breaking the party. So there was a great incentive on the part of the leadership coming from the numerically strong and economically upcoming post-Green Revolution peasant communities to form their own party and to challenge the national party. So you find that in the 1990s, you have a scenario where the party system is no longer a referred context of the Congress party, opposition party, or like that. Congress party was no longer even number one or number two party in many states. It was not the Congress-centered centric party system in the state. So one question which is raised here is that why the state politics was neglected for many years. And as you can see that Rajni Kothari also observed that the state politics was not really given the due what it should have been given. And there can be many arguments for this. One argument I have already said, the dominance of the Congress seen as a dominant party. So it was always understood and ruling both at the center and the state why there was a need to study the states, because politics would be very much homogenized, determined at the central level. The economic policy making would be done by the center, and the states would be basically the puppets in the hands of the center. So that would be one factor which would be there. Then also we can refer to the impact of the political modernization, as I have argued in one of my articles which has been published in India Review, and also in my edited volume on the Rethinking State Politics. I have argued that the impact of the liberal schools of political modernization and political development, because under these Princeton School theorists and the area studies which were inspired by modernization theory and political development theory. Then also another factor that was there was that, as Sudha Pai argues in her article, state politics was seen as a very volatile and very shifting, and Indian polity was considered as segmented. So it was argued that what happens in one state, as Iqbal Narayan argued, did not really much impact on other state. And then the conflict among the caste and religious groups, as Minor Wiener argued, they are very much like a state level phenomena. It would be very difficult for analysts to capture the state level, the kind of conflict which plays out and in linguistic groups at the state level. But then, as we all know, that I've argued also that gradually, and especially after 1990, there has been an upsurge in the literature on state politics. The Mandal was one factor, so there was a renewed interest in the caste-based politics, and the caste becoming more and more important political category, and caste being confined to a particular state. So in order to understand the caste politics, the nuances of the caste politics, it became now imperative to focus on a state rather than try to look for the caste-based politics at the national level, something which was done by Rajni Kothari much earlier. So it was not possible now. And also it was no longer possible to study, like Rajni Kothari, about the Congress system. There was a regionalization of the national parties also. The state units of a national party would also differ from one state to another state. For example, if you refer to the Communist Party of India, Communist Party would have one kind of character in Kerala, and the same Communist Party of India, Marxist, in West Bengal would have another kind of nature, another kind of profile, and another kind of policy. So CPM or the left government in Kerala, left government in West Bengal, whenever they are in power, they would have a very different kind of orientation towards economic issues and towards other issues. Internal organizations also. So you can refer, another example I can take is the Congress unit in Punjab and Congress unit in Haryana. On the Satluj Yamuna link canal issue, SYL issue, they would have a very different take. whenever the elections take place in Punjab, the Congress leaders from Haryana are not welcome. They do not really come to campaign. Likewise, the Punjab Congress leaders do not go to Haryana to campaign, because these two states have their competing interest. They have their interstate issues, interstate river water issues, territorial issues. So even the same party would have a different stand on many issues. So this has been a new phenomenon. This was not there earlier in India. So this has also brought any person who studies the party system has to consider the fact that the party system has got fragmented, and every state has emerged as a distinct electoral unit, and every state has its own set of party system. Like you have Bihar and UP, which have a multi-party system, but then you have the states like Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan, which still have a two-party system. Triangular party system, like in Punjab with the emergence of the Aam Aadmi Party. You have, earlier it was a bipolar system, like the Akalis and the BJP on the one hand, Congress on the other hand. But now, with the Aam Aadmi Party getting 24% vote in 2014 and getting 23.7% vote in the 2017 assembly election in Punjab, has emerged as a third party. And with the decline of BSP and other party, now we have a three-party system in Punjab. So you have a two-party system, multi-party system, three-party system, bipolar system, multipolar system in different states of India. And that brings you to the factor that why we should consider a state as the unit of analysis. And as I said, that if you refer to the lower caste movement or the assertion of the backward classes and the Dalits, again you have state level variance. You have also the variance among the states on the basis of their politics. Those states which have had movement politics, Kerala, like Tamil Nadu, they have one brand of politics, whereas other states which have not had movement politics, but they have had late democratic upsurge, they have a different kind of lower caste politics, like in UP, the rise of BSP, subsequently the decline of BSP also, so rise of ethnic parties in the North Indian states, which came up much later than the South Indian states. How it has impacted on the social and the economic democracy in different states. That has been also a very interesting study, which brings our attention to the state as the unit of analysis. So whether it's a OBC politics, it's a Dalit politics, or it's a kind of degree of democracy, whether which state is more democratic than the other states in terms of the rights, in terms of the public distribution, welfare. Again, you have a very fascinating kind of scenario in the state. Then when we refer to the developmental issue under the new economic policies, you have a different kind of a picture in the different states. Some states have gone from strength to strength. They have become more and more developed. Other states have not really developed that much. And under the new economic policy, these regional disparities, state level disparities, and within the state also disparities have been increasing over the period. And all this has led to base of shifting social base of political power, shifting nature of the developmental strategy. All this has brought attention to the state as the unit of analysis. You have many literature which have come up in the 80s and the 90s, especially in the 90s, where there has been an emphasis on use of comparative method to study the state politics in India. And there have been the pioneers like Atul Kohli, who have taken 3 states. For example, in the state poverty in India, Atul Kohli takes up 3 states. He takes West Bengal as the most performing state, best performing state in terms of the poverty elevation. He takes Karnataka as the middle level performing state against the fight against poverty. And then you have UP, which has been among the worst performing state in terms of tackling the poverty. And he asked the question that why we have a different kind of performance of the 3 states when they are under the same economic model and they are the part of the same federal constitutional structure, and when they have the same kind of insistence that the poverty should go, and the party is asking for vote in the name of their fight against poverty, so on and so forth. Like he also in subsequent work Atul Bole has also been raising the issue about governability and the different performance of the states in terms of the governability. Asima Sinha also in her work talks about like that how under the development planning model, different states had different varying performance. And of course, now we all know that even those states like Gujarat and West Bengal who had the same kind of level of development, now there is a great degree of difference, like Gujarat gets 12 times more investment than West Bengal, and how it can be attained. So interstate comparative study has now become very much a popular kind of to have a theoretical framework. Rob Jenkins would be another. And there is a great this thing that these 29 mini democracies, 29 states, they can be considered as a kind of laboratory to, as Atul Bole uses the word like for studying ethnic conflict, he says India provides a laboratory-like situation where you have different kind of ethnic conflict going on simultaneously, and many of these ethnic conflicts in different parts of India are very much having similarities. At the end, I would like to refer to my own work where I've argued that it's always possible to go beyond the state and to look for sub-regions within the state and look for their politics and economy and trying to compare. See, there are areas which are territorially contiguous, but they are in the different states. Like one can refer to the Bundelkhand region where territorial boundaries straddle both UP and Pradesh. So such kind of study like taking even smaller units, like taking sub-regions as the unit of analysis, that can really help in understanding the politics of India in a much better manner. So intra-state regional comparative approach, interstate regional comparative approach, two-state comparative approach, state comparative approach. Sumanta Bose does that he compares the Kashmir problem with the Sri Lankan Tamil problem. So those kind of attempt to look for one unit in India and to look for a comparative unit within India or to a comparative unit from across the world. Secessionist movement in India or the autonomist movement in India being compared with the autonomist movement in Sri Lanka or autonomist movement in Ireland or in Spain, that makes some sense, but it would make much better sense. But it would make much better sense if we compare the ethnic movement in one state to ethnic movement in another state in India, because all these states are very much part of the same legal constitutional framework, and they have lots of similarities. And the central state policy also with regard to developmental issue, with regard to the ethnic issue, identity issue, with regard to the welfare approach and all, it has been very much informed. So you can always have a better kind of understanding and better kind of comparative approach. So the need of the hour is that the state politics as a subject of study should be given more autonomy and should focus not only on the state but also should focus on the sub-regions within the state, whether it's not only the study of the electoral politics but also the developmental politics, also of the identity politics, and that way the discipline of political science as a whole would be much more enriched, and the India studies would also gain a lot. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this module. Please read the content of the module in order to get a better understanding.